Since the Russian attack against Ukraine started, there have been threats and counter-threats that have been traded between Russia and the Western allies. And now the Russian president has alluded to Russia's nuclear arsenal while effectively warning the West to back off. In a meeting with the Russian Security Council, Vladimir Putin has ordered his defense chiefs to put the country's nuclear deterrence forces on high alert. The Russian president said that nuclear deterrent forces have been put on alert in a special regime of combat duty. Take a listen in.
Уважаемые коллеги, вы видите, что западные страны предпринимают не только недружественные действия в отношении нашей страны в экономической сфере, я имею в виду нелегитимные санкции, о которых все хорошо знают, но высшие должностные лица ведущих стран НАТО допускают и агрессивные высказывания в адрес нашей страны. Поэтому приказываю министру обороны и начальнику генерального штаба перевести силы сдерживания российской армии в особый режим несения боевого дежурства.
Vladimir Putin accused the West of taking unfriendly steps against his country, international tensions already mounting over the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the Russian president's order will cause further alarm. Russia's ally Belarus has also threatened to deploy nuclear weapons if Poland or Lithuania do so. Moscow has the world's second largest arsenal of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, which form the backbone of Russia's deterrence forces. This is the second time that the Russian president has resorted to such posturing, warning the Western allies. In a statement at the onset of the invasion, remember, Putin said that anyone who tried to hinder Moscow would encounter historic consequences. The fears of these tensions mounting and a standoff between nuclear powers is a large part of the reason the US and its NATO allies have been so adamant that they will not send troops to Ukraine. For more on these developments, joining us on the broadcast this minute is Radoslaw Sikorski, who is a former Polish Foreign and Defense Minister and now chair of the Delegation for Relations with the US in the European Parliament. Thanks very much for being here with us on WION World is One. Your reaction to the latest coming in from Russia, where the Russian president has ordered his nuclear deterrent forces to be on high alert. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, nuclear deterrent forces are always on high alert because reaction times are so short. So this, I think, is a piece of theatrics. And this is not a statement by a man who's winning. When you're winning, you don't have to use your last card, and a card that the whole world will find outrageous and frightening. So this is not going well for President Putin. And of course, the key thing is whether these generals will fulfill such orders or do something else.
Right. The Russian president has accused the West of taking quote-unquote unfriendly steps. What exactly did Russia expect following the Russian invasion?
Good question. They probably thought we would be doing business as usual, just as we did more or less, unfortunately, after his seizure of Crimea and his invasion into Donbass. And I just wish that our Western leaders had told him in advance that when he starts bombing, the pressure of public opinion will be such that they will have to be much tougher.
Russia's ally Belarus also threatening to deploy nuclear weapons if Poland or Lithuania do so. What do you make of all this posturing at a time when there is also a possibility of those talks going ahead between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, Belarus doesn't have nuclear weapons, and Lukashenko is a tin-horned dictator who is a vassal of Putin, who stole an election and who is now at the mercy of Putin. But I think he's afraid of sending Belarusian soldiers into battle because they might actually change sides. I think you need to talk, but the message from Ukraine to Mr. Putin is just take your soldiers home. Other than that, I don't see what there is to talk about.
Right. So what is your reaction now that the talks are likely to go ahead with the intervention of the Belarusian president? What is the role, according to you, of Alexander Lukashenko here? Because we understand, as per reports, that this decision for the talks to go ahead has come after Alexander Lukashenko's conversation with Volodymyr Zelensky.
Lukashenko is not a neutral observer. He is a poodle of Putin. If the Russians demand Ukraine's neutral status, well, Ukraine is neutral, or cultural autonomy for Donbass, that's probably doable. But the trouble is that abandoning the invasion now would be a huge defeat for Putin, and I'm not sure he can survive it. So I suspect these negotiations are just a decoy to sap the Ukrainian will to fight.
What are your expectations from these talks that are likely to go ahead now?
Well, today is an interesting day because we know that tomorrow the Russian financial system and economy will collapse. Banks will not manage to switch to a cash economy overnight. And very soon, Russian bank accounts, at least dollar ones, will not be able to serve their customers. So Putin has an incentive to make concessions. One wonders about his grip on reality, though.
Also, the Russian claims that have been coming in throughout, that they have been ready for dialogue, even when the full-scale attack against Ukraine was launched. What is the larger message that has been coming in from Vladimir Putin, according to you? What is your assessment of his strategy at this point?
Well, the Russians failed to predict that Ukraine would win the information war. The narrative of a victim of unprovoked invasion has produced a worldwide outrage and disgust at Putin's actions. And perhaps this is an attempt to recapture the narrative and portray Russia as a country ready for some kind of compromise. I think it is not to be trusted at this stage.
Let's also talk about the situation on the ground and the humanitarian fallout of what we have already witnessed. The Polish border has been seeing thousands of Ukrainians. There is this constant fear of the situation going out of control further. Tell us more about the Polish efforts at this point and the situation on the border.
Well, we feel tremendous solidarity with the Ukrainians. This reminds us of the darkest moments of our own history when we were repeatedly invaded by Russia. So we know what it's like. And we were the same country with Ukraine for 400 years. We speak a similar language. We already have 1 million Ukrainians in Poland. They are being welcomed with unprecedented generosity. And I think we'll take whatever number of refugees shows up.
Let's also talk about the sanctions that have been imposed so far. What is your assessment of the messaging coming in from the West, from the US, from the NATO, when it comes to their moves against the Russian president, against the Russian banks, and to what extent they were expected to deter Russia, if at all?
Well, the significant moves are, A, by the United States, which provided leadership in this crisis, and the Biden administration has used strategic communication and has used intelligence to great effect to warn Ukraine and to rally round allies and international public opinion. And of course, now Germany, under pressure of public opinion, has followed suit. And the sanctions are actually tougher than I had expected. I thought SWIFT may be in play, but I thought there would be more resistance. And this sanction on the Russian central bank is very significant because it means that Putin can't use his war chest. The majority of his $630 billion of reserves is actually held with Western banks. And if his central bank can't use those reserves, then he can't use it to prosecute the war. So all he's left with is physical gold and cryptocurrencies, and that might not be enough.
But there has also been the criticism that the West could have done a lot more.
We could have done more earlier. Germany could have dropped the Nord Stream project earlier. That would have sent a warning signal. And we could have told Putin in advance more plainly how painful this is going to be for him. And that might have deterred him. I just don't get it why some of our leaders were too timid to tell it to him straight, rather than in this roundabout legalistic diplomatic language that he just doesn't understand.
Would you say that the West underestimated Vladimir Putin?
No, I think we overestimated his rationality. Something has clicked in his mind during the pandemic. He used to be nationalistic, but realistic. And now he's read some weird stuff during the pandemic and seems to have loosened cords with reality. I blame his immediate surroundings for not keeping him abreast of realities.
Right. We're leaving it there for the moment. Mr. Sikorski, thanks very much for joining us here on WION World is One and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.